I've always had a interest in writing, though in past and most of it's been factual information. For instance, I used to teach at the Polytech, and of course I had to write my lectures. For the last 5 years I've been retired in New Plymouth, and I seem to have developed a new interest here in that I recall and write down various anecdotes and interesting stories that either I've experienced during my past 70 years down the coast, or have been told by other people down the coast. Somebody said, why not take them to Pukeariki? So they seem to like them, so that's where they go. Plus, of course, they go to the local probus, and the ones that are on tape, the one on disc, which is the one way I present them to probus, I've given tape copies to the Foundation of the Blind. The heart of a district is usually tied round the school, the dairy factory, the hall. In the Warrior district, the hall is now, the dairy factory is now a very tiny unit of Fonterra. The school, the minister decided to close it, and it's now available for purchase without any copper spouting. That seems to have mysteriously disappeared. But the hall is still there and is now the true centre of our district. Well, the one that I'm working on immediately is my friend Tom, who is really me under another heading, who's looking at the various animals he's been associated with over his farming life, plus a bit on his travelling life. He's got one story about the peculiarities of some of the many cows that he'd milked. He's got another story coming up about the horses that were on the farm, even though Tom himself's a tractor buff, but there were 5 horses to his annoyance on the farm. On a trip down the South Island, he became friends with some seals, so they were included, plus a few dolphins on the side, and then again he met some whales. Those appears that they're going to be slightly longer stories. It's possible that the 4 stories will be sufficient for my little module that my anecdotes are presented in. One day I went into Pukeariki for their white glove session, and the lecturer produced an old cheese crate which had been cut into the shape of a child's cradle. This immediately made me think of the other uses that were made with the cheese crate from having often visited our local dairy factory. They made chairs, they made cupboards out of them, and they kept three were on the ground with a wire wove over them, made a comfortable bed. I then thought of other types of examples where people lived off the land. One of the examples was the old kerosene tins that used to be available around the country life. Petrol and kerosene used to come in 4-gallon tins, and with a little use of tin snips and a hammer to tack down the sharp edges, old kerosene tins filled all the uses that these days are carried out with cheap plastic buckets. And then I went into the other thing, like Swedes out of the crop for the cows, the odd tree that grew up round, and you picked up the fruit if there weren't any pigs underneath to beat you to it. And that carried through for about 5 different stories, which had a topic of living off the land.